I'm Jefferson Bryant. Thanks for tuning in to RedDirtRodz. Now today we're working on our C2 67 Chevy Corvette. This car originally started out with a 327 and a 4-speed, but we've updated it a little bit with a 2001 Chevy Camaro LS1 and 4L60E 4-speed transmission. So we need a shifter. Well, we called our buddies up over at Shiftworks and they sent out one of their new 4-speed automatic shifters. Now this is designed to look and feel just like the original automatic shifter available in these Corvettes. We're going to show you how to bench assemble it, and then we're going to put it in the car. Okay, so here's everything that comes with the kit. We've got our wrenches set aside so we can do the bench assembly. We've got 2 linkage rods, all the bolts, and all the brackets. Well, first what we're going to do is take out all the pieces that we don't need for bench assembly. What we want to do is take all the brackets that mount it to the car, and we're going to set those aside with the nuts and washers. The nice thing about this Shiftworks shifter is that it allows you to position it high or low in the car depending on your center console. So we've got a few different brackets. Now, both sides of the bracket have threaded bolt holes in them. So we're just going to take each bracket, put the star washer on the bottom in between the body and the bracket and the included bolt. Just going to lightly thread this in for now. For this we're going to use a star washer in the middle, the bracket, the bolt, and then a nylock nut. Again, we just need to loosely assemble this for now. Alright, now we're going to take our 7/16 inch wrench. We're using a gear wrench here. You can use a gear wrench or standard wrench. And we're just going to take a little bit of the slack up on this. We're not going to make it tight. We just want it to be snug so that we can move it around just a little bit. We're going to take our shifter, lay it over on its side, and we're going to pull this nut off. Now this is a 1/2 inch. This is a 1/2 inch nut. Gear wrench tools make it so much easier. We have to make a decision between which arm we want. We've got several offset arms. We're going to go for this guy right here in the middle. I think this one will work good. We want to make sure that this wave lock washer stays on the bottom side of our bracket. We're going to use this offset bracket. We can always change this once we're in the car if it doesn't seem to fit quite right, but we need to find out first. Now, and we just install it. Now, depending on the shifter that you have, you may have different length arms here. Now, this is a 2 3/4 arm that's measured center to center on these 2 bolt holes. That dictates on your transmission arm, which is this piece right here, that you're going to use the lower hole, which is this one, the inside hole. Just keep note of that. So, we've got the rest of our components here. Depending on the car and everything, the transmission and everything we've got going, we may need both of these rod linkages. Now, I don't think we're going to need both of them on this car, but if we do, we're going to go ahead and show what that bench assembly looks like. Now, these rods are left and right hand thread, which means that you have to spin it backwards on one side. We got to figure out which one that is. Okay. So that's the left hand. There we go. That gives us quite a bit of room to make our linkage hook up. And then this system uses adjustable rod ends, which is a pretty nice feature. We really like these. These are easy to adjust. Okay, so next what we need to do is take this to the car. These projects can be a pain sometimes, just trying to work with the stock locations. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip both of the brackets, both sets of brackets up, and we're going to put the shifter in the park position. And we're going to drop it in. You want to get this in first, clear of this section of the hole, and we're going to drop the back side and then the front side. It may honestly be easier if we take this bracket off, which I think what we're going to do. There we go. Okay, now it dropped right in, and we're looking at this, and you know what? We need to bring this out. We're going to go ahead and use these lower holes on the front portion. There we go. Yeah, that looks like it's going to work much better. Okay. We may have a little bit of a clearance issue with the arm we chose, so we may have to take this back out. Yeah, it's not going to let us get it quite all the way. We go ahead and mark it so we can figure out exactly what's hitting. Yeah, it's hitting just on the inside right here. Okay, so what we've ended up doing, we actually flipped this bracket around, so it's going to be setting to the inside. Okay, so now we have the basic shifter installed. It's working. We're going to adjust these brackets here to get us just the right fit. Get everything in the right position. Before we do anything else, we want to check the fit of our console. Now, this is our factory console. Make sure that everything's gonna line up the way we want it. Make sure everything's gonna sit down where it needs to. That's looking pretty good. Now up here on these two brackets, we have the option to cut these down. And we're gonna go ahead and mark these because we've got 2 extra bolt holes, and that'll allow it to sit flush on the original mount pad instead of raised up here, which is gonna give us better clearance for the console cover. We're gonna mark this back one as well. Okay, so we've got our Sharpie. And we've got this positioned where we want it. We're going to go ahead and mark these. All right, so now we're going to remove it. And we're going to go back over to the bench. So what we're going to do to make sure that each bracket goes where it needs to go, we're going to mark a 1 and 1, 2 and 2, 3 and 3. Now each bracket will go right back where it's supposed to. Okay, now we've got all 3 brackets. Now what we need to do is come in here and cut each one, and this one we're going to re-drill. Okay, so we've modified our bracket. We just need to drill it. Now this is a 17/64 hole. That's the same size as the original. Just gonna put our drill bit in there. And there we go. All right, now we're going to take and we're going to reinstall our brackets.
Has this ever happened to you?
Oh, greasy hands, not again. How am I ever gonna get this out? Gojo scrubbing wipes?
Fabric shop towels just move the mess around. They don't actually get anything clean. Bar soap requires water and doesn't always cut the grease. Gojo scrubbing wipes remove the toughest tar, grease, and adhesives, and no water is needed. Plus, they contain skin conditioners to help prevent dryness and irritation that leads to cracked hands.
Thanks, Gojo scrubbing wipes. Now my wife will let me back in the house.
Get Gojo Mojo, so you'll be good to go, and not dirty, with grease.
Gojo, para limpiar por manos.
All right, now we've got our mount set up, so we're going to go ahead and get this thing dropped back in. Sometimes easier said than done. Okay. Okay. There we go. All right, now what we're going to go ahead and do is drill for the bolts. So we want to get this adjusted exactly how we want it. And again, we're going to use the same drill bit. You can drop a bolt or a screwdriver inside the hole as you go to keep everything kind of lined up. Okay, so we've drilled our holes and we've got some quarter 20 bolts and washers. And all we need to do is drop one in each hole. Make sure everything stays lined up. Then what we need to do is from underneath put on a washer and a nut. We're actually going to have to crawl under the car in order to get that accomplished. So that's our next step. Okay, we're under the car, and this is what the shifter looks like from underneath. Now what we've got to do is get all of our bolts tightened up, put the nuts on those two, got to get the nuts put on here, and then we'll get the shift linkage hooked up. Okay, so we've got our nuts put on. Now we're just going to use a socket with an extension. There's not a lot of room to work under here, so alright. Now we need to come in and we actually need to tighten up these nuts and bolts.
Gear wrench is really handy right here. Makes it so much easier. Alright, now we're going to finish tightening up the rest of these. We need to remove okay, we're under the car. We're unbolting the factory arm. We're just going to pop that off. Now right now we're in first gear. So now we're going to take our Shiftworks shifter, and it faces up, just like that. And then we reinstall the bolt and tighten it back up. Okay, now we're under the shifter and we have moved it into first gear position. This is to make plenty of room so that we can slide the spherical rod end into the shift arm. Here we have our assembled shift arm. We just used one section of the threaded rod and the spherical rod ends. We're gonna bring this up here and slide that in. We're going to put this in first gear, bring our rod linkage up, slide it in. Now all we have to do is bolt it in and make sure it's adjusted. The spherical rod end uses a 7/16 nut on the shaft and a 1/2 inch wrench on the nut, and we're just going to tighten this up. Okay, so here we have everything's completed. We just need to tighten up this rod here. And what we're going to do is just tighten this by hand until it pulls everything nice and tight. And then we're going to load our jam nuts. This one will get tightened, and then this one will get tightened. Tighten the jam nut. Now we also need to wire up the reverse lights and the neutral safety switch, but our car's not ready for that just yet. We're just going to tuck these wires in. We're going to bring on our factory. Alright. Now this is the factory console. This needs to get a little bit of restoration on it, but we're going to check how everything works. Park, reverse, neutral, drive, third, second, first. Looks great, feels good, no rough spots in the shift pattern. The kit from Shiftworks comes with a new aluminum embossed panel with a shift indicator for the 4-speed. We're going to put that in here later on when we're doing the restoration on this, but for now, we're done.